Good morning, Mike and Arlen, our Philippine journey. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for viewing, subscribers, members, viewers, whatever. We welcome everybody here. You know what? How are you going to be remembered? And the problems with making this particular video. What is your legacy going to be? You know, let's talk about that because I think it's kind of important for you to understand the direction that we're going here. Okay. You know, we hear this word bandied about quite frequently, and yet it seems to always focus on the physical side. In other words, what kind of legacy are you going to leave? What kind of legacy are you going to create for the people you have come in contact with, whether they're your partner, your wife, your children? Well, legacy is not just physical assets. And that's the problem I had with this video. You see, I wanted to start about that. And I was going to call this, What Legacy Will You Leave When You Pass On Here in the Philippines for Expats? All right, or when you leave the Philippines. But I had to go back and look. A legacy is not just physical assets. All right, a legacy is also how other people remember you. And so, you know, I had to make this video a couple of times, and then we had interruptions here at the home, and we had to get some work done on an aircon that caused a bunch of issues, and it's all working out. What can I say? So, legacy, all right, or how will you be remembered? Well, let's leave it at how will you be remembered, because the next video is going to be about what kind of legacy physically will you leave, and what will they do with that legacy. But let's get forward with this, all right? So, I also struggled with the fact that there are so many different types of personalities. I tried to be kind of all-inclusive here, all right? I did the very best that I could. I'm sure some of you in the comments below will say, well, what about this kind of guy? Or what about that kind of guy? Well, it is what it is. I think most everybody is going to fit into one or even two of these categories. Finally, in the comments, tell us if you know any of these types of people and what do you think about them. So, all right, number one is the narcissist, okay? They are, in general terms, overly concerned with their own desires and interests, often at the expense of others. Okay? They're self-centered. The term emphasizes that a person focuses primarily on themselves. They have to get their own view out there, and they have to try and make that view or opinion or idea accepted by others. You know, they feel important with preoccupation of their own ego. I've been actually, I've had some trolls that have actually called me a narcissist. And then there are people that actually call all YouTubers narcissists. Well, I would disagree with that only because we don't put out videos every day. We don't have to see ourselves on YouTube every day. Sometimes we put out 2 a week, 3 a week, 3 a month, 4 a month. Those things happen. So I'm not sure about that. But it's an extreme form of self-centeredness, often characterized by a grandiose sense of self-importance, the need for admiration. The narcissist wants and desires you to need them. And often they have no empathy for others. Okay? They're engrossed in their own thoughts. Now, you know, all right. So, do you know a narcissist? Do you know a narcissist YouTuber? Let us know. Maybe you want to let me know I'm a narcissist. It's quite possible. The financially restricted. Now, this type of expat, it implies that someone through historic circumstances, either of their own actions or the actions of others, have caused them to fall into a lifestyle that dictates being significantly financially limited. And there will be many of these where they've lost so much due to toxic relationships, toxic marriages, a toxic workplace, life's events that were beyond even their own control. Now, don't get me wrong, some certainly put themselves in this position, but that doesn't make them a bad person. We have plenty of friends that are on limited incomes, and that's fine. They're great friends and they're great people, and they're totally upfront with their partners, with who they interact with, their wives, their partners, whatever, that this is what it is. All right. These are the circumstances. This is what I can afford in a relationship, and they go forward. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. All right. The problem that comes in, though, is when they know they're limited, yet they portray themselves as not. All right. They try to make themselves to be more financially capable than they are. And when they start to believe that themselves, when they start to think that they are more financially capable, they get into money problems. All right. But these are generally good people. All right. Just because they're limited in finances, that doesn't make them a bad expat in any way, shape, or form. The minimalist. Now, this is kind of interesting. All right. The minimalist is not about deprivation or living with arbitrary limits. It's about being mindful and intentional in choosing what to keep and what to let go of. They focus on the essentials. All right. Minimalists want to add, and there's, again, let me tell you, nothing wrong with being a minimalist. Nothing at all. Their priorities, all right, are what adds value to their lives. In other words, does a motor scooter add something to my life? I mean, I'm going to have to maintain. Does a car, do I have to own a place? Why can't I rent? All right. They live with understanding that this is what makes me happy. And if it makes them happy, if they get a general sense of accomplishment, of being able to have what they consider a great life with the minimum amount of fluff, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. They're physically decluttering. In other words, they don't have little trinkets laying all over the place. All right. They just don't have to deal with that because it's not important to them. Minimalism often involves reducing possessions. It's a philosophy that extends to all aspects of their life, encouraging people to be more mindful of how they spend their time, their energy, and their resources, particularly financial resources. These are people that are happy to live the way that they do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, what about the stuff that there is? Well, I guess, when it comes down to what is good and bad and what's nothing wrong, that's also probably a matter of opinion, okay? It depends on what type of person you are. But when the manipulator, the person that uses money to manipulate or limit the freedom or create dependence, in other words, they use their financial position to create a relationship based on codependence. And this we do see. We have seen it. They typically use that carrot and stick where it's like, you know what? You want this money? This is how I expect things to be. This is what I expect. You want an allowance? This is what I expect. And if you don't, then no carrot for you, baby. All right? They demand or expect their partner to do as is dictated or threaten to replace them. Look, you know what? There's a million women out there. And if you're not able to take care of these needs in this manner, I just get another. And they use that financial clout to get this. What happens is it actually demeans people, and they tend to lose a sense of their self-worth. These are horrible, horrible expats. Do you know anybody like that? Let us know what your experience in that is. Okay, the toxic expat. Now, we've seen these everywhere, okay? And you will continue to see them. They manipulate people through any means necessary. They are literally almost like con men, all right? They're always negative, or they always want to voice a negative view. Even they will find something negative or critical or pessimistic about even good things. Things that they will point out that, yeah, well, we went to dinner and the prime rib was good, or we went here, we went there. Let me give you a better example because that one sounds a little self-absorbed. You know what? We went to Boracay, and these are all the things that were wrong with it. Okay? But when they don't focus on any of the good things, all right, that makes them a little bit toxic. Then when you see that everywhere they go, all they talk about is the bad things. They don't talk about the good things. They'll criticize anybody just to make them feel better. And you've seen these in YouTubers. You've seen YouTubers who make an entire channel doing nothing more than criticizing the mistakes that other people make. And that's a business. That's what their business is. But it does make them slightly toxic when they bring that into their personal lives. They thrive on drama, the emotional volatility, all right? They're incredibly judgmental when they don't even know both sides of the coin. There's just so much to the toxic expat, all right? Finally, I'm not even going to give you an idea of a written idea. What about the good guy? What about the guy that provides for everything? Provides, you know what? I guess I will give you, no, I won't. The guy that provides all the way around. He's responsible. He's a mature individual. He understands that things are different, that complaining is going to get you it's not going to get you very far. All right. What about those guys? They support a family. They have a wife, a partner, maybe children, and they're making sure that they're having a future. That's the other type of expat. All right, they're just good all-around people. Now, you can have people that are free spirits. They don't ever want to settle down, and this has nothing to do with settling down. This has everything to do with how you present yourself, your ideas, your ideology, and the way that you go. I mean, I would like to think, quite frankly, that we are slightly minimalists. We are simple people, Arlen and I. Our life may be complicated for some people, busy for some people in their eyes, okay? But in our eyes, in watching, we know what our daily tasks were prior to retirement. We know all of the things that had to be accomplished on a daily basis. Our life is simple now. Our task list is less than 7 or 8 things on a daily business, a daily routine. So, there are all kinds. In the comments below, make your own definition of what an individual is. And then tell us, give it a name, and tell us what the definition is. That would be interesting. If you want to compare it to others, feel free. Otherwise, we definitely want you to keep in mind 2 things. Number 1, the next video is going to be about the legacy and how to maintain that legacy when you are gone, and then physical legacy, all right? And then, secondly, please do subscribe, hit the thumbs up. We hope you have a great day. Be safe.